Obviously, trade deadline ended last week. There was a lot of big trades. Anthony Davis and Luka Doncic weren't the only. They were the biggest names to get traded, but they weren't the only big names to get traded. I'm going to list off a few guys here. We'll get into the trade details and stuff. But we saw trades: Jimmy Butler to the Warriors, De'Aaron Fox to the Spurs, Zach LaVine to the Kings, Kyle Kuzma to Milwaukee, Chris Middleton, God bless him, joining the Washington Wizards. Dennis Schroeder got traded for the fourth time in 2 days, going to Detroit, and the Raptors got Brandon Ingram. So we'll break it down one by one here. I think we'll start with probably the biggest name besides Luka and AD, Jimmy Butler. We know the fucking saga that went on in Miami for the last, feels like more than a month, but probably just the last month, and finally get shipped off to Golden State. There was a lot of reports going around. He didn't want to resign there. He wouldn't have resigned there. There was talks of KD potentially getting involved. The Warriors initially wanted Kevin Durant, and then he said no. And then there were talks of multiple team trades. That didn't come to fruition. But Jimmy Butler did get traded to Golden State. The Miami Heat got Kyle Anderson, Andrew Wiggins, Davion Mitchell, and a first rounder in 2025 in return. Honestly, I think like for both sides, the Heat, they move on. They got Andrew Wiggins, who I saw there was like an interview that said like Pat Riley asked Jimmy Butler years ago, like, who's the most talented player you've ever played with when he signed with Miami? And he said Andrew Wiggins. So funny that he swapped out Butler for Wiggins there. But I think that for the Heat, you get you get a handful of players that could help out your roster, right? Neither of them are at the level of a Jimmy Butler, but guys that can contribute. You get a first out of it. Then Jimmy Butler goes to Golden State, and he isn't, was he the Warriors' first option for a superstar teammate next to Steph? Maybe not. But he definitely does add something to the team that's different in the sense of like he doesn't shoot like Steph. He's more of a gritty defensive player, hard-nosed player than Steph, I'd say. But one game together, I believe they won their first game together.
25 apiece or something like that. They combined for like 59 or whatever it was.
Yeah. So they're off to a good start together. I think both are. I mean, Jimmy Butler signed also failed to mention, a 2-year, $120 million extension immediately after going there. So obviously he has no issue being there. But just what are your initial thoughts there, Jerry? What do you think of the fits there? You think Jimmy Butler is going to take the Warriors to the next level? Is he going to save the franchise this year, or what are you thinking?
Well, before we officially get to, I guess, the what's important talks for the sake of this conversation, I got to say, Jimmy Butler butt heads with the godfather of the NBA and Pat Riley and won.
He won. He did.
Which is like, yeah, I get that he wanted to force his way to Phoenix. That didn't happen. You still got a W by going to the Warriors and playing with, first ballot Hall of Famers and Draymond and Steph, and even Steve Kerr, will be even more immortalized here. It's impressive that Jimmy actually won, but to get to what you actually asked, I think the Warriors do creep back up into these Western Conference standings. We mentioned the Dallas Mavericks earlier, to where now I think the Mavs are going to slide with AD missing a substantial amount of time, and the Warriors will be one of those teams that ascend. They should be peaking at the right time. Jimmy's probably one of those other guys, I think, that you could plug in a lot of different situations. And he actually makes sense. For the Warriors, they needed another shot creator and a guy that could also create for others, not just Draymond or Steph doing it. So throwing Jimmy Butler into the fold of what they have going on already offensively makes a lot of sense. From the defensive standpoint, you got two of the most high IQ guys on that end of the floor together. And guess what? They're both assholes, allegedly. So I think the refs are going to have some hard times managing emotions for that team, but it's going to look great to see, as time progresses, those two guys just barking orders at one another and the rest of the team. That makes me really happy. It's actually kind of oddly satisfying. I thought him going to Phoenix probably would have been, maybe better, I guess, just because it's Kevin Durant and it's Devin Booker, and it's make it work. But this is a very good consolation prize to where you were probably meant to be here instead of Phoenix anyway.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think it's honestly, is it a perfect fit? I don't know. We've only seen one game so far, but I think, again, so far so good. I think, Steph and Draymond, with their history of winning, they know what it takes, and they're as hungry as ever. They want to still compete at this age, so I'm sure that we'll see the Warriors. I don't think it's going to make them worse. We'll put it that way. I don't think they're going to go down the rankings. But moving on, this trade actually, I think this happened when we recorded last week, but we had too much stuff going on with Luka and Anthony Davis, so we decided to save it for this week. But De'Aaron Fox gets traded to San Antonio. It was a multiple team deal, so a lot of moving pieces, but eventually what it came down to be was Fox to San Antonio, and the Sacramento Kings got Zach LaVine. The Kings also got Valanciunas from another deal, so the Kings are kind of doing their thing right now. Right now I think their lineups like Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, who are reunited, both teammates a few years. Now they're reunited, except for Vucevic. Now they have Sabonis and Valanciunas. So
yeah,
they definitely, I don't know. The Kings traded De'Aaron Fox. Like they lost the best player in all of this, right? But like Zach LaVine's, like we've talked about him before. Like he's a 20-point per game scorer, like very good shooter, playing like athletic, going to the basket, everything like that. Valanciunas isn't the best center in the league, but I don't think he's the worst. It's just a weird team they've put together. Like, I mean, I think they're still gonna be competitive for sure, but like, I don't know. Obviously, again, losing Fox is the bigger name here, but I'm just curious what you think, because like they lost the trade, but they're still competing. So I don't know.
I don't really know what to say
It's
about
weird.
it.
It's weird, right?
I kind of feel like if you were trying to go for a rebuild or go for a retool, you would have got like better pieces in return or something like that. But
Right.
when you trade for Zach LaVine, initially I'm thinking, oh, like maybe him and De'Aaron Fox. Oh, no, De'Aaron Fox is a 3-team deal. Oh, okay.
Right.
By the way, the Bulls didn't get any first-round picks out of trading LaVine.
Nothing.
Hilarious.
Nope.
But
Caruso, LaVine, DeMar, all gone. No firsts out of it.
Crazy. Conversation for another day when I feel like bragging on them.
I
But
don't listen. You know how I feel about the Bulls. I can sound off when we have that episode.
Yeah. But Zach LaVine ending up there, I really don't know what to make of it. I still think that they might slide a little bit, but the team's competitive enough to where they could stay wedged into that playing picture, which is, I guess,
and they were looking good the last few weeks. Like after the whole thing with Mike Brown, they were looking fine. What I mean?
They won like 8 of their 10 games with Doug Christie, like the first 10 games. So I mean, like they're not a terrible team. I don't think anybody knows their direction, including them. Like that's
right. Yeah. I mean, this obviously isn't a move that resolves anything in the long term. You get Zach LaVine. He's not a player that you look to have for the next 5 years or something like that. You know what I mean?
What I can't
like the timeline, the ages are so weird. LaVine, DeMar, Sabonis, like it's so strange.
But shout out to them for taking Domas and pairing him with Valanciunas, their Lithuania countrymen. I guess it's like, oh, my brother, like, hey, it's kind of cool in that regard that I guess they're taking care of their franchise player in Sabonis, if we can call him that.
But they ain't winning shit.
Nah,
they'll take care of you, but we're not gonna win a ring. So,
what I will say though, before we move on, I think the Spurs won the trade for the next 10. Spurs had the best trade this deadline for the next 10 years.
I felt like the Spurs didn't really give up a lot, and they gave up picks, but like the picks aren't like anything like they're heavy protected, or they're just like whatever. Like they already, and they still have a stash of picks, so it's like they were very like they could get rid of some. And I will add as well, the Spurs adding to winning the deadline, like you said, they have the Atlanta Hawks pick this year, unprotected. And guess who gave up some key rotational players this deadline? The Atlanta Hawks. So and Jalen Johnson's out for the year. So that is, if the Spurs get the number 1 pick this year, man, Christ almighty, that is going to be nuts.
I just need Charlotte to be rewarded that, please.
Listen, I don't know if I want San Antonio to get Cooper Flag. I mean, I'm all for this, seeing this, this young team doing great things, whatever. But I do want the rest of the league to be competitive. So I would like it if they didn't get the first pick.
It's insane though, because I think everybody's kind of trending towards this. having dynamic duos now. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
Tatum and the Browns, the SGA and the Chet or J Dub, whoever you want to put as a second
Sure.
fiddle. But De'Aaron Fox and Wemby moving forward for the next
It's good.
5+ years potentially. And
It's
you
good.
got to keep Stephon Castle.
Oh yeah, that's a big piece too. They got to keep, and they could use him. They have other pieces that you could use in trades down the line this
I
offseason.
hope they don't, man. I think Castle stays, bro.
Oh, not even just him, but like you more picks, other bigger contracts and stuff, like movable contracts. This
Yeah.
offseason, I think there's going to be a few big name players
Mhm.
that are going to look at San Antonio and be like, that might be a place I want to go. So I am excited to see what San Antonio, and they are right now, they are
The 10?
3 games back of the 10 seed. So have some, they have to make up for some space here, but I think they could definitely sneak in at the tail end of the season. Okay. Next trade we have. I did want to talk about this. I mentioned it last when I was going through the rundown, but this one definitely was. I think this was the most confusing to me, or just like I don't know. Brandon Ingram gets traded to the Toronto Raptors. The Pelicans get Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, first and second round picks. I get it. Like the Pelicans, DeJounte Murray out for the year. Speedy recovery to him. He was playing the Celtics when that happened. It was tough to see. They traded Brandon Ingram. And by doing this, I'm thinking, okay, they're rebuilding. They're gonna trade Zion. They might trade CJ, whatever. They keep both of them. They're last in the Western Conference right now. I'm also like the Pelicans getting rid of him is one thing, but then the Raptors getting him. I thought that was kind of a strange move. It's not strange, but just like one of those like, why like did you need to do that? Like I don't think it's a move that like Brandon Ingram's a good player. Don't get me wrong, but like I don't. It's just a weird, just like trade to happen, and I don't think it changes much of the East rankings or the Raptors odds or nothing like that. I think it's
No.
just they invested or they're giving it a shot, see where it goes, and if it doesn't go anywhere, then you still have RJ quickly and Scotty Barnes. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Strange.
I kind of feel like it could be one of those situations where they're just trying to stockpile talent. Like,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
think
Maybe.
after getting RJ Barrett and getting Emmanuel quickly to put alongside Scotty Barnes, it was like, okay, you have your potential 1, 2, and 3 for the next few years. But I think getting
Right.
Brandon Ingram gives them that versatility to also have Scotty play the 4 or have Ingram play the 4, depending on how they
Sure.
want
And
to
yeah,
look.
Poto there as
Yeah.
well, who,
Yeah.
their center who's very, very good.
It's an interesting, tall, big, young core, I
Very
would think.
tall lineup.
Because
Yeah.
RJ Barrett's like 6'6", 6'7", Brandon Ingram 6'10", Scotty 6'9", 6'10". So maybe
Right.
the thought here, if I'm a Masai Ujiri, is trying to get proven talented guys. Like RJ has proven talent, Brandon does. Quickly, probably a little questionable, but has a talent. Like I can't justify what they're doing, but I think Masai's a smart guy. I think later on in the
Right.
offseason, maybe it'll start to come together. We'll see something there.
Yeah, it's one of those like he makes the move now and it maybe leads to something else down the line, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the Raptors are 6 games behind the Bulls for the 10th seed. I mean, they're the team separating them and like we'll say the 8th seed is the Hawks, who I mentioned traded some key rotational players.
They'll
The
fall.
Chicago Bulls, who are a fucking mess.
Please fall.
The Sixers, who I don't know what the fuck is going on in Philly anymore.
Question
Embiid's
mark,
talking about
question
getting
mark.
knee surgeries and blah, blah, blah. I don't fucking know.
Yep.
And then the Brooklyn Nets, who shouldn't. I mean, at this point in the season, they need to start losing games because they should not be the 12th seed right now. So it's like I don't know. I don't think the Raptors. Maybe they sneak into the play-in or something like that. Maybe they leapfrog over teams like Atlanta, Chicago, Brooklyn. But yeah, I think this is just like you said. It might be just a move that sets up something down the line or might lead into something else. Because I don't know. I saw this. I'm like, out of all the teams to have traded for Brandon Ingram, I just thought that it was just a strange one. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then the Washington Wizards. We'll end it with them. They loaded up with talent, Jerry, pushing for second half of the season with Chris Middleton and Marcus Smart. Really, just what you don't believe? You're not on the same page as me. You don't think that?
Oh, no.
You don't think that the Wizards are stockpiled with talent now to carry them into the playoffs? The Washington Wizards, they made some moves. They got rid of Kuzma, who's been on the trade block for God knows how long at this point. Sends him to Milwaukee, which I'm more I don't know why Milwaukee. I mean, Milwaukee, you get a more versatile scorer. You get, a little bit more like, a guy that can play the 3-4. But at the same time, I don't think this move
But
makes them better. I
I'll
don't think it makes the Bucks better.
I think about it like this though. What were you getting at Chris Middleton the last 2
Not
years?
much,
You
not
know,
much.
I
But
kind I
at
kind
the
of think
same
Chris
time,
Middleton's
him
knees are cooked. I'm not gonna
his
lie.
his knees are absolutely cooked. Yeah, he's this year is probably the last one where we're probably going to be mentioning Chris Middleton like a semi decent light. I think after this season he's going to like really go downhill. But I just don't think Kyle Kuzma. What has Chris Middleton given you? 100% get that. What's Kyle Kuzma going to give you? He gives the Wizards 14 points a game on 28% shooting from three. He's going to Milwaukee with Giannis and Dame. He's surrounded by better players and can lead to better opportunities. But I don't think, in the grand scheme, I think of, all right, what moves can the Bucks make to make Giannis happy and to keep him around long term? And then I see them get Kyle Kuzma, and I think to myself, I don't think this is the move that keeps him around.
I'll put it like this. I don't think it's a terrible move, really, from a standpoint that Kyle Kuzma, I think, is a better product when he's surrounded by better products.
Sure.
So, like, we
I mean,
obviously
we've been kind of blinded by that the last few years of him being
because
in Washington.
he's played in Washington, so it's kind of like, and those stats that you listed out for him are terrible. Since you do play for the Washington Wizards, you should at least
expect more. You'd
23.
expect him to be like a 20-point per game scorer, high teens or something.
I get that. Like that is kind of concerning, but he played his best basketball, obviously, with LeBron and Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. Now there's another situation that you get to land in with another ball dominant player like Giannis and Dame, to where I think the impact could kind of show itself later down the road, especially in the postseason. You could say he was a top 6 player out in LA, I guess, whenever they won the title, behind like Bron, AD, Rondo, and whoever else you want to throw in that mix. But I think it kind of makes sense here for them to take a swing on a younger player that could possibly give similar numbers like Chris Middleton kind of gave him.
Sure.
Like, I get from a team chemistry standpoint, it's probably like, oh no, you keep Middleton, but like we just both agreed on, Middleton's knees are probably on its last pieces of cartilage.
Scrambled eggs.
Yes. So
yeah.
I don't mind the move. I think it kind of makes sense. Is it going to be a franchise altering Giannis keeping move? I don't know. Probably not. We'll see what happens in the postseason.
I think it's just like a move that just keeps you where you are. Yeah. I don't think it takes you to the next level. I mean, maybe it does. I think there's more potential of it. I think there's more potential of it becoming like being really good for the team than it is like worse. I don't think Kyle Kuzma is going to come in there and make the team astronomically worse. I think he could make them better. But as of right now, I think they're just going to stay the same.
That's fair.
But all right, so those are like really the big trades. Do you have any other trades or like other moves? Anything you really want to bring up or talk about before we close it off here?
Ben Simmons signing with the LA Clippers, which is
did sign with the LA Clippers, and my favorite part about that was the graphic. And then the caption was "Who's stopping this team?" And then the replies was just a cropped version of just Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
It's
not. I think it's interesting from a standpoint that. And maybe I'm on this bus alone, but somehow, he can still find an impact. And I just think it has to be with...
How old is Ben Simmons?
Probably your age. Maybe.
Let's see. Ben Simmons' age. 28. He's actually your age. Oldie. Me and you, we've discussed this before. I do believe somewhere deep down, there's something there, because Ben Simmons is a former All-Star. He was a guy that was in Defensive Player of the Year conversations, and then something happens, a downward spiral, up here on a lot of things. It's been a long 5 years.
Yes,
because that was like 2019 or something like that.
That's insane.
Maybe no, I think it was 2021 because it was post-pandemic. Either way, it's been it feels like in 5 years. I don't know if the Clippers, I don't know what team he could go to that's going to cause this resurgence, right? I think Brooklyn was going to be like an option because, especially after KD and Kyrie left, Ben Simmons is going to be there. He can kind of, take over, kind of show that he can be a leader, whatever. Didn't really see that. Injuries kept popping up. I hope we see something good from Ben Simmons. I mean, I'm more happy that I hope he does something well in LA, because if he signed with the Cavs, I wouldn't feel the same way, because I wouldn't want him to have a resurgence, because that would be terrible for the Celtics.
Yeah.
But I do hope that we see something out of Ben Simmons in LA, or they allow him to flourish, and he takes advantage of the opportunity that could lead to something down the line.
Maybe it's like that Russell Westbrook role where you run with this second unit, you kind of see what happens.
Sure.
Kind of find your footing again.
Doesn't have to be a starter.
No.
You put him in situations where he's comfortable, and you can allow him to get his confidence back. Again, is LA the place to be? I don't know, but we'll find out, I guess.
I think playing with an established coach for the first time probably in his career. Like I'm trying. I don't know if I'm missing anybody, but it's Brett Brown.
I was gonna say Brett Brown, maybe. He didn't. Who else was in the Sixers after him?
In Brooklyn, it was Steve Nash for a little bit.
Right.
And then Jordy Fernandez takes over.
He's never had consistency.
Now you have Tyronn Lue. So a guy that knows a thing or 90 about the game that can kind of put you in the right position to succeed. Because again, I know that James Harden eventually pushed Russell Westbrook out, but Ben Simmons probably fits better because of the 6'10" size, because of the handle, because of the playmaking. I think with this second unit, I'm not saying he returns to all-star form. I'm saying that he finally finds value as a productive role player. That's my hope. That's my wish for Ben Simmons, because golly, man, you still got it. It's somewhere there. You had it once upon a time. Bring it back out. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, no, 100%. Listen, this at one point Ben Simmons was being compared to LeBron James, and that there's a reason for all that, right? Yeah. So I'm not saying that we're going to be seeing, him turn into prime LeBron James. I mean, he's 28. He's technically in his prime years. So I hope that he takes advantage of the fact. Not comparing him to LeBron by any means, but hopefully things work out for him.